lesson planning clinic. After today, there's just one more left on Monday, because after we submit those plans, Monday night, Tuesday morning, we're done writing drafts. Wow. So, in the spirit of urgency and trying to hone all of these wonderful skills that we've accumulated over the course of Institute so far, really making sure that our drafts going forward from here on out are our strongest. When we revise them, that they have every part of it. I'm going to try to make sure that my feedback is very specific and is aligned to the things that we talk about in our coaching conversations. But then also just, again, in a lot of the emails that I sent last night, at this point in your development, for most people, I'm just reviewing one lesson plan or two for ESY, because you teach, you have more due. You should be using that feedback that you get on that one lesson plan to look at your other lesson plan and using that same feedback and also everything that you've learned to, for yourself, decide what is working and what is not and what am I missing. That includes scripting, behavior directions, it includes checks for understanding. Checks for understanding at this point should also be including exemplar student responses, so that you have a good idea of what you're expecting students to say, so that if they're wrong or if you need to push them, you know how to do that. It should be student-centered guided practices. Their students should be involved in the I&M and all that good stuff. So for lesson planning clinics today, there's going to be one mini lesson and a few check-ins with specific groups based on content. And so we're going to start off the opening, which is what we're doing right now. The mini lesson should only take about 10 minutes. We're going to be using our very own Kaylin's rough draft for tomorrow, and for Friday, and giving her a lot of feedback on that. That mini lesson group will be Kaylin, Ricardo, Alyssa, Tolu, Emma, and Christy. And we're going to meet right after we get started. Then I'm going to check in with our composition folks. Then I'm going to check in with government and econ just to give you an idea of when that will be. If you would like to spend your work time in a space that is more conducive to your style of working, then by all means, you can use the LS room, you can find an empty classroom, you can use your classroom, anything that helps you get these visions done, so that tonight all you have to focus on are the methods. Do we have any questions? No. Okay, so the first mini group, if we could meet over here in this area, we're going to be using some of the windows to post some things up. So Emma, if we can maybe post some chairs around.
If we join that, we'll do this now. We'll have a space around the whole table. So you don't change the color.
Oh, if like you move the table up some. I see what you're
Oh no, you know what? That's yeah.
You can actually put your computers down for right now because they're trying to take up a little bit of space.
He always leaves them. It's the black one. Yeah. Thank you though. Oh my god. Have you been working on this table?
I just put a piece of paper under one of mine in my phone.
This is like a big.
You may want to move some more things off the table because we're going to be working with posters.
This is the 1201. Oh sure. Here, I can even throw this back there.
There's a seat right here too.
Oh, that other side?
It kind of looks like
a little hall that's right across from the Duomo. But I don't think that's. It's definitely not intentional. In Milan.
Okay. So the first thing that I'm handing out is I think something that Sandy got yesterday. Did everybody receive this? Yeah, so we have it. I'm just going to have some near our sign-in sheet over there. I think this is a really good visual for how the gradual release process works. Again, like I&M is in this area right here. I'm moving into this area so students are involved in the process and we're moving them to be able to practice with the help of teacher and then moving them into more independent practice. So we'll have extra copies of that. now I'm going to pass out a rough draft of Miss Kaylin's lesson plan. We're not going to be focusing on the whole thing. We're going to flip to the part where the intro to new material starts.
I don't even think I put one of those. So.
Yeah, that's how we're working on it. So I believe it starts on the 4th page. So the INM up here, that doesn't have the title up at the top, but that's okay. So if you can just read through it real quickly, independently, and then we'll come back together in a second to discuss. Ready? Okay. So this isn't abnormal to anything that I think the entire school sees. Like we all do LPR together. RJ helps sometimes. Like he's written comments on some people. I mean, maybe not any in this group, but some people's lesson plans. So we're very interested in like the trends so we can better support everyone. So one of the things. So just to give some background information on Canon's class. So the whole summer has been focused on fractions. And one of the things that we're doing to push rigor is to include word problems. And so in this, the new material is not the skill that they're learning that day because it's a review, like they've done it before. The new material is the strategy for solving word problems, right? So when we think about an INM, a lot of times that's where a lot of stuff is. It's not just a dump of our key points and, oh, I'm just going to explain these things, right? So what things do you think should be in an INM? You can just shout them out. Okay, so what she said she's going to introduce us using an example. So what goes into that? So the example that she's going to use.
I have it written on, I have it written on, like 3 examples written on chart paper. It's just like up in the classroom and I didn't have it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it.
So the example, and along with that example, how she's going to introduce that. So what do we call that, especially in INM? Are students doing it yet?
For modeling?
Modeling, good, all right, yeah. So modeling, right? Modeling needs to be in our INMs from here on out. Like, how are you going to show them what you're expecting them to do? They need an example. There should not be any questions. I mean, you can do checks for understanding after you present your material, but asking them to help solve something or do an example with you before you show them what you're expecting, that is not the most effective way to do that. What else goes in an INM? I kind of said it in the last one. Text for understanding. Lots of them, right? Especially depending on the amount of material you're covering. So I know for government and econ, Lord, sometimes I have to Google some of that stuff. But like it's a lot of information. And so we want to make sure we're checking. And writing, it's checking to make sure that they're with you, especially when you're talking about grammar, you know, like what we're doing now. And so we need checks for understanding. So we have modeling, checks for understanding, what else? Goes in an INM. Emma, you were in the last INM group. What did we do last time?
Teacher actions, student actions.
Good, teacher actions and student actions. I'm not sure what students are going to be doing here when this information is presented.
Me
right?
neither.
Okay, so that's why we're using this. And in a lot of classrooms, there may be in plans, they may not be, but in execution, I'm still going into classroom and I'm unsure of what the expectation for students to be doing during INM is. Students have to be doing something. And sometimes it can just be they're sitting quietly and listening. Now this doesn't work for a lot of students that I work with, especially in the ESY classroom and especially middle schoolers who are very, very antsy. They need something in front of them and they need to be doing something. And this could be working through a paragraph or an entire article or an essay, and they're just like underlining things and circling things. They need to be doing something at every part of this. And then they also need to be involved a lot more, especially towards the end, to push them into guided practice. All right, so CFUs, teacher actions, student actions, modeling. What else do you see in an INM?
Is the MVP thing, is that?
Yeah, so we should be scripting the expectations that we're setting. So the behavior expectations, like how you're gonna get their attention, including, and this is gonna be our challenge for tomorrow, attention getting signal. I know it was our challenge yesterday, I had a hard time getting around, but I need to see trying different strategies for getting their attention, but the directions that you're gonna give, right? So those are just 4 things. We're gonna focus on 6 different things right now. I have 6 mini posters. Each of you is going to have a poster, and you're gonna spend 3 minutes jotting down ideas, or even like an exemplar of like the scripting. So in quotation marks, what you would say if you have a scripting one, or what text for understanding you would use. And it's gonna just revolve around this right here. So presenting this new information, this strategy for solving word problems. And we don't have an example to use. You can make one up if you have like the modeling example. So each person, 1, 2, 6, right? Yeah. Each person's gonna have a mini poster, and that's what we're gonna do right now. And we're going to talk about it a little bit after we're done, and just like bounce some ideas off of each other. So this is a good feedback for Kaylin, whose plan this is, but this is also a good use for ideas to help you when you're thinking about planning your IM. So the 6 posters we have, auctioning them off. Who would like scripting behavior expectations? Emma. The choice. Shared responsibility. So what are teacher and students doing together? What is going to be the shared responsibility? Now this isn't so much scripting, it's more so of just like a comment in the INM, like this is how the responsibility is shared in INM. It's not just me lecturing. Thank you.
I guess I should know this.
And then we have modeling. Who would like modeling? Modeling the skill for them? Yes.
Everybody practice like examples.
CFUs, and not just CFUs, but the answers that go along with the CFUs. Awesome. And last we have student actions.
It doesn't matter which one, I'll just take one.
Student actions or teacher actions?
It doesn't matter.
Pick one. Student actions? Okay. And Alyssa, you're left with, you can move if you would like. So I'm going to set the timer for, I'm going to do 4 minutes. I'm going to set the timer for 4 minutes. You're using this, it's not really an objective, it's just like the strategy to come up with something that you could put into this item with yours.
Okay, so we're not writing it, we're writing in the lesson plan, we're just suggesting how we should do it right now.
She's like, I'm gonna be bad today. I'm like, that's a really bad attitude to have at the beginning
So
of
the
class.
timer is getting started.
Yeah, I think he's right. You guys knew last night.
Now.
Oh.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
These are fine. Do you want me to rewrite it?
It's fine. Okay, so not so much scripting, I finished that out, but just like what teachers doing.
Oh,
So that it aligns with what students are doing. It's not scripting, it's just teachers
Gotcha.
doing this with that. And this one.
And I was not happy. Like, already screwed, but that's why.
No, it's fine. Thirty more seconds, so wrap up your last bullet point or thoughts.
I got really confused when I was like, just because like, I know they're gonna sit there quiet. I know I need to
I
like
know.
practice and keep it in, but it's like, I know they're gonna sit there
And then
quiet.
you can just push more on like them doing things.
Right.
And then, you know, like
Mhm.
bringing that vision in.
Yeah.
Like,
I wish that was an expectation I could have.
I know they're gonna raise their hand.
All right, time's up.
The world I don't know.
Ready? Okay.
Yes.
So let's start with yeah, let's start with teacher actions. Actually, no, let's start with behavior expectations because that happens first.
Okay. Should I like just hold it up? So scripting behavior expectations. I usually separate into movement, voice, and participation. I think Carla actually showed that to me. That's really good. So and that's conscious. But movement. So I said student. This might not like particularly fit, but like whatever. Students are sitting quietly and taking notes. Voice. Students are not speaking unless they have a question, I guess, with the hand raised. And participation, students are writing, and then like some sort of script in that to like incorporate it all together. It could be like, class, we are now going to learn a new method for solving word problems. You are going to silently and independently take notes on the method when I say go.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to teacher actions and student actions. So teacher actions first.
Okay. So first I kind of did it as if I was scripting, but one of the things I have is teachers will be administering CFUs and walking around checking what students are doing. I know sometimes I do that, I'll talk at them in the INM instead of walking around and having them do something. And then also the teacher will be modeling, maybe they're on the board in the PowerPoint, something like that.
Right. So for INM, a lot of times, like the teacher actions, student actions, they're not as heavy. It's more heavy when we get down into the guided practice and the independent practice when there needs to definitely be like, I'm not just going to let them do independent practice, like I need to be involved in that too. So like it's very clear teacher actions, student actions. All right, ready to loop?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. For the student actions, you said it's not that heavy, but I have like 5 things.
Well, yeah, for INM, student actions are.
Oh, okay. Student actions, I put follow MVP protocol, track the teacher, refer to handout during the lesson, follow the teacher's model, cue method, and then participate when called on or prompted for CFUs, and then take notes when appropriate.
Good. Awesome. And so sometimes like I know like spelling all of this out in the lesson plan can seem like a lot,
Yeah.
but when we don't have like our expectations clear in our head and like in our lesson plans, then we don't really have a good idea of like, okay, well students can just sit and listen, and like we don't know like in our head like what we want students to be doing at this time. All right, let's go into CFU.
Alright. So I basically scripted out my exact words.
Actually, I'm sorry, I lied. Let's go into modeling next, because that would happen.
Okay, so I have worked through the problem by thinking out loud in front of the class while showing them the cubes system. So go through each step, you say something like, you read the problem, and then you say, what number should I circle in this sentence? Get an answer, and then what should I underline in this sentence? So like work together using the system in front of the class.
Yes, and so when you get to share responsibility, that's going to be really important. So I would say about the second to third example involving them. In the very first example, to think aloud, I'm answering my own question. So what I'm going to ask myself, and this is just for, obviously in different age, with different age groups, it looks a lot different, but I'm going to ask myself, what number or what what in this sentence am I gonna circle? The 1/2, because when I go back to the step 1 in the cube system, it's circling the number, and 1/2 is the number, and just circling it. Then the second or third question involving them in answering the questions. Okay, CFEs.
All right, so I basically scripted out exactly what I wanted to say. So, the example responses, didn't get the opportunity to put that. But, can anyone in their own words explain what I just asked them to do? A moment to choose one. Tiffany, it's your student response here, and my response will be good. Now, Tyron, can you repeat what she just said? Do some kind of mind counter? No. Okay. No. Okay, that's fine. I'll explain. So now, are we clear now? Yes. Okay. All right. When I say go, I want you to complete what I should ask. Ready, set, go. And then 2-3 seconds after that, I'll begin positive narration and get ready for a redirection.
Good. Now these are really good behavior CFUs.
Yeah.
Also, we would definitely want to have instructional CFUs.
Of
So
course.
really quickly, and it can be painless since this is your lesson. What's one check for understanding that you could ask that is not on the lower level of Bloom's, but it's getting to those higher levels?
Well, I've been using the whiteboards in class, so I have them flash up their answer, but for this, I actually think of how I'm going to do that, because they aren't just giving me a greater than or less than equal to.
Yeah. Also, when you get into like that fully shared responsibility and like that third or fourth or last question that you're doing in INM, you could we definitely want to push student thinking, and so instead of just identifying things and describing things and explaining their answers, and this is really good for word problems, changing some part of the scenario. So not only do they have to identify something, but they have to evaluate the whole thing in their minds, flip it, or use that different piece of information and stick it into that word problem, and that's evaluation. They have to evaluate how something would happen or what the result would be when there's a different factor involved, right? So really, I know we're really good with the assessments now of scaffolding it and making it more rigorous. We need to start doing that with our checks for understanding too, because that's going to help them get those harder questions correct on the assessment. All right, and lastly, shared responsibility.
Okay, so I didn't put this in my eye now. Sorry, bad me. What I have upstairs on a chart paper, I have 3 examples. So on the first one, what did I write? Okay, so for the first problem, I'm going to completely do it on my own and explain each step of how to use this method, the cube method, to solve a word problem. And they're going to be following along with me on. I'm going to have a work with the problems on there, and they're going to be following what I'm doing. On the second problem, I'm going to mostly do it, but I'm going to prompt them to fill in some steps or, something along that line. And then the third problem, they're going to tell me exactly what to do on the chart paper themselves while following along in their worksheets, and maybe having them come to the board and having them circle the word or underline or cross out.
So it's your responsibility. It's not a script or anything. It's just how is this moving into gradual release. So now, while you get situated and start work time, I'm going to post these up just so we have them. It's really important to remember that each of these 6 things needs to be in your INM. So that's the challenge for when I start looking at Monday and Tuesday plans. I'm looking for all 6 of these things. And again, checks for understanding, whenever you feel it's necessary, it's not 10 each time. You can spread them out, 2 here, 3 here, 2 here, and making sure kids are having a way for all of them to respond, either thumbs up, thumbs down, using boards, anything like that, helpful modeling. All of these things that we just talked about, that's what I was looking for on Monday and Tuesday. Sound good?
Yep.
Yes. Does this make it a little, I think it was already clear, but does this kind of help a little bit with making sure we have all of those elements?
I'll take pictures of it.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right, so we can start working.